Can I be real with you for a second? Over the past week, I have cried, and I mean really cried, like sobbed and cried myself to sleep multiple nights. There are so many things that feel hard right now, and it's got me thinking about how I stay consistent even when it feels like my life is going to custard, because I lost 40 pounds while going through depression, my husband's condition getting worse, he has multiple sclerosis, moving multiple times, building a business, and then so many other horrible, difficult things that felt like they were going to crush me. And with all of it, there is something that stops me just not quitting. And I wanted to share with you the 11, very uneven, unsatisfying number. By the way, look at these new nails. Like, I love these nails so much. I think these are my favorite nails that I've ever had. But there are 11 things that really help me to keep going. And I think that these are going to be helpful for you. If you have ever struggled with the emotions and the difficulties of life and wondered, how are you going to keep going? Then please keep watching. And by the way, this video is sponsored by the 10,000 buckets of tears that I have cried over the past 10 years. And I'm going to structure this into 4 distinct categories. The first one being food and the habits around what I eat that have helped me to stay in a calorie deficit so I could continue to lose weight. The second one being like lifestyle choices and things that I do to help me to feel better throughout my days. The third one being some movement and strength tips that have helped me to stay more consistent with my exercise. And then the fourth one, which is probably my favorite, is more of like a mindset and habits around actions and inputs that allow me to consistently move forward, be this in weight loss or in anything else that I'm doing. So let's get into that. But before we do, it's really important to understand why these things work when it comes to consistency. If you want to lose weight and you want to keep it off, then you need to consistently get into a calorie deficit. And obviously what happens when you have a lot of emotional turmoil, when you have a lot of things going on in your life, is that you just want to eat comfort food and you want to eat processed food. So that is going to mean it's much harder to stay in a calorie deficit if you're binging, if you're inconsistent, if you're craving things, and then you give in to those cravings in order to just feel a little bit better, or if that's just a pattern that you find yourself in. So most of these things are really just about helping you to increase your consistency enough where that pattern gets better, and so that over time you can improve it and then start to build a new pattern of behavior. So that's why it works. Habit number 1 is that I always eat vegetables with every single meal. And this has been a huge safeguard for me, because even if I eat something that is more processed, let's say that is a takeout pizza. Let's say I'm like really craving something like ramen. Let's say that I'm like, you know what, like I don't really care what I eat today, and I go out to eat. I always have that side of vegetables, and I always make it part of my meals, which means that my calories are always going to be lower. It gives me freedom to eat more of what I am craving in the moment, but it safeguards me against that being like a massive calorie blowout. And it also means that I'm in the consistent arena of what I call change, which means that I'm not an all out or all in terms of my behavior. So I still have a level of trust in myself, even in my worst moments. Which brings me to habit number 2, and that is that I allow myself to have comfort meals when I'm really feeling my worst. If I feel like I really need a comfort meal, I will have it. That won't be Ben & Jerry's though. That will more be like a creamy pasta. It will be something that I've seen on Instagram that I think looks good, and I add those tons of veggies. And this habit alone, I think, has helped me so much, because I never have to think about my diet as being all in, I'm on track, I'm on plan, or all out. I'm either like, I'm at McDonald's, or I'm binging, or I'm going down the road to get like the thickest vegan milkshake that I can find. Well, of course, if you're vegan, you don't eat McDonald's. I was depressed and pregnant, and I just like lived off McDonald's, even when I was meant to be vegan back in the day. Like the worst vegan of all time at that point. I really love this as a safety net, and I've seen it be so positive for me, and I've seen that a lot of other people who don't have something like this do tend to fall into those all in, all out patterns a lot easier, which then leads to a weight gain spiral. And even in those times where I'm meant to be like really strict with my diet, or I'm being very intentional, if I'm really feeling so bad that I'm like, I could go and get takeout right now, and like, by the way, sometimes I do that, but if I'm feeling that bad, then it is so much better for me to be able to make like something at home that fits that requirement, or feels a little bit more decadent, it feels a little bit more comforting, and not stay on whatever plan I was on. Because any takeout meal that you have, any kind of processed binge that you have, is going to add up to like thousands and thousands of calories. The average takeout meal is about 2,000 calories. That's not including drinks or dessert. So I know even if I make something that is more decadent and it has those veggies, it's a little bit more higher calorie than what I would normally have, that's going to maybe be like an extra like 200, 300, maybe 400 or 500 calories than what I would normally have, but it's not going to be an additional 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 calories. Number 3 is that I do let myself have dessert. If I'm like, you know what, I could go and get donuts right now, then I'm going to let myself have some kind of dessert. And even last night, I really wanted to order cookies. I even got to the point where I opened up Uber Eats and I started Googling vegan cookies or like vegan donuts, and I was very close to putting them in my cart. And at that moment, I remember that I had some Ninja Creamy in my freezer. It was like watermelon and protein powder. And so I got out my Ninja, I whizzed it up, I added some mango on top, and then my kids had these like little Cliff Bars, which are like a little bit more processed, and I crumbled that up and I put it on top. And for me, that became like a super decadent dessert that actually was also my dinner because I didn't really feel like cooking. And by doing that, I ended up having something filling that really hit that craving spot that again, like wasn't like 2,000 calories. Was it the most perfect thing to eat? Was it a salad? No. Did it safeguard me because it was right there, easy to do, and because I allow myself to have better behavior as opposed to all in, all out behavior? Yes. Most people massively underestimate the power of just having a little bit of leeway or a little bit of nuance in terms of your behavior that safeguards you, and then being able to have those things in your environment. If I made myself be perfect, if I was like, I'm never gonna have dessert, and I didn't have that Ninja Creamy in my freezer, or if I had cookies in my fridge ready to go, like I would have eaten the cookies or I would have ordered something. But I created an environment that allowed me to meet myself halfway and actually make a much better decision. I made it easier for myself to stay mostly consistent and harder for myself to have like that all out behavior, because I would have had to order something and there wasn't anything in my environment that was like I could binge on. Number 4 is more of if you find yourself like systemically struggling. And that is that I have something called a joy list. This is a pre-made list of things that I have on a notes app on my phone, which give me joy in my life. And these are things that they don't give me joy because they're amazing or they make me feel certain things. They're more just a trigger for gratefulness. These are things that I've decided that when I see them or when I do them, I will remind myself that that is a good day. And like when I say they're small, I mean they're really small. They're things like seeing flowers when I walk down the road. They're like seeing cute houses. It's having a coffee that I like at a cute place. It's moving my body in some kind of way, so like exercise or working out. And it's having a conversation with my person. And those are the things that I can control every single day that give me joy. So even if I'm having the worst day, if I do even one thing on that list, I'm not allowed to tell myself that it's a bad day. I have to start telling myself it's a good day. And the more things that I check off on that list, the more I tell myself that, whether I believe it or not. I'm like, this is the physical evidence that I am having a good day. And that also allows me to be less in this spiral of negativity because I've operationalized, which means that I've broken down what it means for me to have a good day. It's not dependent on how I feel, which is mostly outside of my control. It's dependent on something I can actually go in action that then changes and rewires the way that I feel about the situations that I'm in. This is something I really recommend doing and that you can do right now, and I'd love to see in the comments, what is one small thing that you could do every single day that you could use as a trigger for joy that you like doing? The 5th thing that I do and that I think is incredibly helpful is I do have a hobby on something that I really find fulfillment in that isn't food. And if you use food for comfort and you use food for soothing, then this can be incredibly helpful. And so for me, that's skating. And so if I'm feeling like I'm having like a bad day or things are feeling too heavy and it's going to affect my consistency, I know that there is an activity that I can go and do that is going to give me more dopamine and more excitement for life than if I was to go and binge on donuts. It's also going to release some of the stress that I have because it is physical activity. So I highly recommend that you actually find what that is for you as well. And this is not a hobby that you think you should like, maybe like running or working out. This is something that you actually like doing so that you want to do it. There's no shoulds in this. Just find something that you actually like, but preferably with movement. Number 6 is to have some kind of like food-ish related activity that isn't super high calorie. And so for me, that's beverages, because and when I say beverages, it's not going out drinking, because those calories can rack up quickly. But I love a coffee date, and I love a coffee date with myself, and I love a coffee date with other people. So if I'm finding that like I really need like a little bit of a pick-me-up, it doesn't have to be something that revolves around spending lots of money or lots of calories. I can get pretty much the same enjoyment from going and getting a coffee, which is going to be maybe like 150 to 250 calories at most. And I think that there is like a lot of comfort and soothing that comes from food, and not all of that is negative. It's really only negative when that is going to be affecting your goals to the point that you can't achieve them. So if I can have something that's soothing and good and it doesn't actually affect my goals, even if it is food, like I don't see that as a bad thing. I see that as really positive. So coffee and coffee dates is that for me. Number 7 is going to sound so generic, and it is, and that's just getting out in nature. There is something about being outside that just makes us feel better. And all of these little things add up. Then they're not fixes in and of themselves. And it's crazy because even like last night, for example, when I was crying my little heart out, in that moment, it felt like it was the end of the world. It felt like I was never going to feel better. But I let myself fully experience it, which is something new for me. I never used to do this, but I've learned this really recently. And if you want me to talk more about this in a podcast, actually I did do a podcast about this. I did a podcast about emotions and letting yourself feel emotions with one of the amazing people in my team, Abby, who is just taught me so much about dealing with emotions, and also our clients as well. So you can check that out in the description if you want to learn more. But when I finished that cry, as horrible as it had felt in the moment, I did feel better afterwards. I did get through that, and I was able to go to sleep feeling pretty much calm. And the tie-in that I want to have here is that even though it feels like something like getting outside or doing a little bit of exercise is not going to help that overwhelming feeling of like, I just want to go and have a binge right now. I just want to say like, stuff it. Like, I don't care about the consequences. Just give me all the food, self-sabotage, that kind of mindset. If you can do one tiny action before you let yourself have full reign, if you can just stack a few little things, then you are much more likely to feel good enough or to feel better enough that you can take the next little step. And what most people get wrong about consistency is thinking that you need to have high motivation all the time. You don't. You don't have to be perfect. What you need, and the thing that is going to help you to stay most consistent, is to have tiny little things that allow you to make slightly better decisions than the worst decision that you would normally make. That's what builds trust in yourself, because you're getting out of that all or nothing cycle. And if you have had a pattern of all or nothing behavior, then that's your default right now. So anything that you can do to pattern interrupt that will build more trust with yourself. Number 8 is kind of obvious, and it's the first thing that when I had therapy, I was told to do, which was to exercise. And exercise is actually the thing that really helped me to get out of my postpartum depression. I would say that that was like more effective for me than like anything else that I had done. And it's where I fell in love with running, was with a running pram, running with Riley, getting outside into nature, and actually have something to do when I felt like 3 p.m. would roll around, Nick was at work, and I just felt like I was going stir crazy, and all those thoughts would come in. So I kind of view exercise now as almost like medicine for myself. And I know for a fact that if I'm not exercising consistently, if I'm not moving my body consistently, then I am going to feel worse, and it's going to be harder to make better choices. So again, like, this is just one of those little things that you can do that is going to make it easier for you to stay consistent. And so view exercise not as a way for you to burn more calories, because it's not really going to help you do that. And I've talked about this in other videos as well, but view exercise as a way that you can have better cardiovascular health, bone health, but also just as importantly, mental health. That's going to make it easier for you to stay consistent in other areas around your nutrition. Number 9, I just wanted to show my nails again. We're going to talk about some of the mindset things, and all of this kind of revolves around the same concept, which is to take a next little tiny step. And there's this diagram in James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, which I always think looks like the cross section of a boob, like milk ducts in a boob. I know that sounds weird, but it looks at what can happen when you take one tiny positive action versus one tiny negative action. And so every little tiny positive action that you take you open up the opportunity for more positive actions. And even if you take a negative action from a positive action, you've still got more opportunity for positivity the more positive actions you take, because it's almost like going down this maze, and each turn that you make gets you to a better fork in the road. So even if you choose the quote unquote bad fork in the road, the more positive actions that you've taken, the less that bad action is. And I'm using bad and good more just as a way to think about choices that help you versus choices that don't. And so this is a really helpful visual for me to think about. If I just take one teeny tiny step in the right direction, I'm going to be more likely to take another one. Like, I have more positive actions and positive opportunities that are opened up to me if I take one teeny tiny step. And in the moments when I feel most down, I can't see how one tiny action would help me to have a positive outcome overall. And I can't see how I could even choose a positive outcome, but I can take one teeny tiny step. I can put vegetables into something that is a bit more decadent. I can put a potato in the microwave and eat that before I order the insomnia cookies. Like, I can take one tiny action, and even if I tell myself, you know what, I'm gonna take the worst action afterwards, as long as I take one tiny step in the right direction first, I'm more likely to take another one. And this also removes a lot of the pressure of getting everything right, and it instead puts the onus on me just taking action right now, and then I almost always get a better outcome. Number 10 is a similar kind of concept of this, and that is just delayed gratification. And you could say delayed gratification, or you could say just safeguarding gratification from a positive step before you're gonna do the thing that you actually want to do. Like I just talked about, eat the potato before you order the Uber Eats, or go for a walk before you completely derail your diet. Cook up a creamy pasta first, then see if the craving is satisfied. Or if you're at the ice cream shop, order some chai first, order a drink first, sip that slowly, and then see if you still want the ice cream afterwards, and then go and do that, but do something else first, or delay it even just a little bit. Delayed gratification is such a positive concept because it allows you to think less about the urgency of doing something and more about the urgency of just making a better choice right now and riding out an impulse wave. Because when we're feeling very strongly, we have these big highs in terms of emotions that are almost like surfing, and we're on the high of that emotion. But if we just give it a little bit of time, it's not going to be as acute. You can kind of ride that wave, come out the other side, and then be able to make a better decision that isn't so emotionally charged. And some of the ways that I will do this is if I really want to binge on something, if I really want to take like a negative action, and this could be in my personal life, this could be my business as well, I will just say to myself, well, I can do that, like I can do whatever it is I want, just let me get through the next 10 minutes first, or let me just go and do this thing first. Like, I might say, you know what, I will go and get ice cream, I'm just not going to do it right now. Let me just do a couple of things, and then I'll use that as a reward. 9 times out of 10, I don't end up doing it. And then finally, number 11 is telling myself that I win if I don't quit. Because I will have failure along the way, and so will you. I've had so many failures on the way to losing 40 pounds and now keeping them off. And I've never been perfect along that journey. Nothing that I do is perfect, and actually most of the things I do feel not good enough. I constantly feel guilty for not doing enough. I constantly feel like I could be better. Even in filming a video like this, I'm looking at how long it's taken me, and I'm thinking like, you know what, I should start again. I've rambled too much. This is not good. The concept's not amazing. I could have done more with my day. I've wasted my time. And so there are so many things that constantly make me feel like quitting in everything, not just in weight loss. But I tell myself this little mantra that if I don't quit, I can win. I don't have to feel like I'm winning. I don't even have to feel like I'm making progress. As long as I put one foot in front of the other, as long as I keep pressing record on this video, as long as I upload it, even though I'm like, you know what, it sucks. As long as I get back on track when I have a meal that's not perfect, and I do that quickly, even when I feel like it's not going to make a difference. As long as I go to the gym for 5 minutes and do some kind of workout, even when I didn't want to. As long as I don't quit, I know that I will win. Because the only way to really fail is just to give up. And I'm not going to do that. And I tell myself that winners just don't quit. And it sets me apart Because most of the time, most people will consistently quit and they'll do it over and over again. But even if I stay and I do a teeny tiny action and it's not perfect and it's not amazing and it's so much worse than what perfection would be, as long as I don't go back into that all or nothing cycle, as long as I don't throw in the towel, I know that I will get there. And this also builds trust. And if you have trust in yourself and you can tell yourself, you know what, you're going to do this no matter what, and you've built enough trust over time, you can do anything, like literally anything in life. And so building trust with yourself through tiny actions, through not quitting, is paramount to your success in anything that you ever do. And me, like just for everyone. To wrap this up, you don't need motivation. You don't need to be perfect, and you won't be. But you need to not quit, and you need to have teeny tiny things that you can do that help you to stay slightly more consistent than you want to be. I hope that you found this helpful. And if you want to check out that podcast episode about how to use emotions and not let emotions derail your progress, it is really, really good. It was mind-changing and life-changing for me. You can go and check that out in the description. I will see you next week for another video. Please let me know in the comments which of these habits you are going to implement and you found most helpful. Okay, bye.